A young boy walks through the depths of an unexplored dungeon. His face was sweating with anticipation, with no idea where he currently was. He gripped onto his phone, which was held at arm's length. The boy was live, with over 400 viewers and several hundred comments. A colossal, worm-like creature appears from the ground as the boy braces himself. When diving into the dungeons, he always made sure to stream. This was mandatory for all adventurers in an effort to prevent accidents and crime. The boy knew that he did not know everything yet, but that didn't really matter. In his classroom, the boy held up his phone to prepare for his very first day streaming. He pressed the record button to begin his journey as a DanTuber. He checked out the status of his first session with 10 viewers so far. He introduced himself as a rookie DanTuber to his small audience. He explained that he had only just finished the training course, but he will be going to the dungeon right away. The boy watched carefully as a few comments came in, one mentioning how he looked like a rookie, another warning him to not die. The comments made the boy start to feel like a real streamer. The boy was aware that his first stream gets a lot of ties, which was an abbreviation for simultaneous connections for the real-time number of reviews. It provided a way to sift out who to support. The boy gulped. There was no doubt that he was nervous when it came to getting used to the technicalities. He had to admit that it wasn't a strength of his. On his way to the classroom reception, he thought to himself that he wished it was his choice, for whether or not to stream it. But when you dive into a dungeon, there's a devilishly designed feature where the broadcast starts automatically. He wasn't sure if it was a good idea to say that he would do his best to live up his expectations. For his first day, the plan was to just explore the first floor of the dungeon. He knew that it was a world of death after all. He wondered if it was possible to skip showing the rating, since if there was too much blood, people under 18 would not be able to watch. He remembered a few of the comments he received mentioning how viewers were traumatized with what they witnessed. It was scary when you thought about it. As the boy wandered through the tunnels, remembering his personal motto, to work steadily and consistently, he heard that it was harder to die on the first floor, which calmed his nerves slightly. Although he still tried to not let his guard down. The boy arrived at the first floor of the dungeons, which was filled with explorers. The boy actually remembered that it was the floor which he saw his parents on. The boy wandered through the floor, getting a sense of excitement just as much as he was nervous. He tried reminding himself that this floor was safe. And suddenly, he heard a voice yell that they found a fork in the road. In the classroom, the boy was instructed that the smartphone that was distributed at the end of the rookie course lets you confirm your abilities and current position. There was also a map off the dungeon according to that, on the first floor. 4 paths converge and continue onto the next floor. So ultimately there were no dead ends, and if you stayed calm you would be able to break through. The boy motivated himself to keep it moving. Today was the subjugation of 3 slimes. He realized that he was getting more nervous now, which was reasonable for a newcomer's first day. He did not want the big day to be the anniversary of his death after all. The boy registered an alternative route on the floor, realizing that it was known as the third route. By taking this path, the boy would be choosing the route with no people, however. He slowly walked up the stairs, affirming that he will be fine. He kept telling himself that he had done the course, so he had nothing to worry about. Not to mention the fact that if he didn't take the path, he would not be a true adventurer. The boy finally came across a blob on the floor, with 2 eyes. He found the slime, and it was cute as ever. Despite that, he picked it up and squeezed hard until it exploded into a mess. The comments came rolling in, with those who witnessed the event being split in 2. Those who were horrified by the boy's unprecedented act of cruelty versus those who loved it. The boy was pleased to see more comments regardless. He wondered if slimes are really that popular. It was cute seeing them alive, and he had to admit that it was pitiful that a few are killed each year. The boy sat down, concluding that he did not feel sorry for monsters. He thought that if that was the case with slimes, then what about snow rabbits? He decided that he would not forgive snow rabbits too, which were mass-produced monsters. He snapped his attention back to his surroundings, knowing that if he let his guard down, he would end up with his neck snapped. To make matters worse, the boy did not know any other adventurers. He had hardly seen anyone else's stream. As he descended deeper into the dungeon, the boy wondered where he was. He imagined seeing one monster after another, and it had been quiet since the slime. In fact, moving may be more tiring. He guessed that it was not easy being an adventurer. He couldn't believe how many levels there were along the path, and wondered if it was possible to skip it or something. A message popped up reading something about a level skip called a Yukazi, and then the boy realized that a guy called Yukikazi was in his comment section, a streamer who he always watched. The boy expressed his appreciation. It turns out that Yukikazi was a B-rank adventurer, although they did not have many subscribers on their channel. He briefly remembered a 2-sword style with a fox mask, an irresistible feeling that tickles a man's heart. And more than anything, she was strong. Yukikazi was the only DanTuber the boy watched. And of course he promoted his favorite channel to his small audience. A voice told him that he did not realize the boy could be so long, but the boy defended that he was going to be passionate about someone he admired. He watched more comments come flooding in, including Yukikaze, who found it amusing that the boy promoted them on his own channel. Yukikaze advised the boy that if he goes a little further, he will see a shining white magic circle. The boy knew that it was true when it came to skipping. He thought that there could be something wrong with the viewer's reaction. He started to head off and came across the magic circle, and his viewers advised him not to get too close to it. Everyone's reactions are strange, but it was Yukikaze's advice after all. He thought that the situation could not be dangerous, especially since Yukikaze advised him to go in. The boy gasped as soon as he entered the area. Yukikaze looked around the area, which was nothing like he had ever seen before. He wondered what type of place this was. That's what he wanted to ask. Was there a floor level like this? He continued to ask if he was currently in unexplored territory. Yukikaze messaged the boy with an apology, claiming that he did not think the boy would actually enter the circle. The boy genuinely had no idea what to do now, especially since he slept through most of his training. He tapped onto his phone to see his viewers equally as stressed on behalf of the boy. It turns out that the 46th floor was the current crossing record, and the boy knew that if his current location was unexplored, it must be better than that. His tracker failed to show any information on the floor he was on, but it read that he was 10 times deeper than the record. But deep down, the boy knew he was cooked. It was not a floor level you can expect from a rookie in your initial gear. He knew that he was going to die here. But the boy knew that he did not want it to end with this stream. And he definitely did not want Yukikaze to be criticized. He was only 17 after all. He couldn't stop thinking about the slime from before. Even if all else fails, he can't just die, and he was not about to end the stream here. He spoke to his audience, taking accountability that it was all his fault, and he had not concentrated during his training. There were warnings too, but he didn't take any of them into consideration. The boy apologized to his viewers before asking for as much help as he could get. His viewers expressed their concerns for his situation, but ultimately nothing could change the fact that he was alone. To make matters worse, some viewers insisted that they were not looking to help him. The boy knew that he had no choice. He thanked everyone and took accountability that he was the one at fault. Luckily, he had several new comments, including Yukikaze, who vowed to help. A voice asked the boy if he really could do it and asked what his surroundings are. The area an adventurer will be displayed on its own right? The boy wondered if there was a path he could walk on, but it felt like it was about 35 degrees. There was a lot of magma too. The boy suddenly had one thought flash through his mind: monsters. He saw a dark shadow at the bottom of the rock's edge which looked like a wolf. The Finjan has been set up to allow for a viable living environment with an upper limit of 40 degrees Celsius and a lower limit of 10 degrees Celsius. He knew that you needed to avoid encountering monsters too. The boy, whose full name was revealed to be Sekai Kotoba, remembered his specs, mainly the fact that he was only at level 2. Even though it was convenient, it was non-combat. Someone commented how it was nothing big, to which the boy agreed, and it was the skill that manifested itself. The dungeon search was limited to skilled users. That's why when it first appeared 2 years ago, he was satisfied with just that. He just wanted to have fun diving in the dungeon, not thinking that it would turn out like this. Yukikaze mentioned how he can acquire skills later in life, so he should not be too pessimistic. He thought to himself that Yukikaze was kind, but another comment asked him what he was planning to do about the floor master. Sekai asked if they meant the boss that he needed to defeat in order to advance to the next level, before wondering if he needed to defeat it to go back. Other comments claimed that if it's been defeated once, it's not needed anymore. Sekai knew that it was tough for beginners before wondering what he needed to do. A commenter called Aragami advised him to look for a place to rest. He continued to explain that in the US, Germany, and the UK, from the 50th floor onwards, there was one inactive area called the rest area. Sekai thanked the commenter, admitting that it was helpful information. Aragami continued to say that most of the rest areas are in caves, so he recommended Sekai to go there first. More fear-mongering comments came in, some mentioning how monsters can reach the 50th floor. The boy checked out his stats to see that 150,000 people were now watching. It turns out that Sekai had made the national news, with stories airing about a 17-year-old boy who went missing, being transported to an unexplored floor due to a teleportation accident during the search. The stories continued to state that Sekai was alive and still streaming, and his location had exceeded records. Sekai was stunned to learn that he made it to the news. He was sure that his family were already watching. In a blink of an eye, there were 400,000 people tuned in to his live stream. A comment asked if Sekai was embarrassed having so many people seeing him in this state, but Sekai only thought of it as having more allies. He got to his knees and introduced himself again as a fresh recruit for all his new viewers. He then set off to find the rest area that was mentioned, making sure that no monsters could see him. He scurried into the darkness trying to stay as quiet as possible. Aragami mentioned that it was strange the lower you go the more powerful the enemies are, but Sekai mentioned that it was peaceful just because it was spacious. Sekai wondered if it could be like a bonus stage, and out of nowhere a wolf appeared, breathing over Sekai. Sekai looked at the beast and knew that he was screwed. He ran for his life, but the beast towered over him. It opened its mouth, its long tongue chasing after Sekai. He pleaded for his viewers to help him, as comments, including some generous cash donations, came flooding in. Sekai pleaded with his viewers to send him advice rather than cash. What he needed right now was a solution. Yukikaze answered that Sekai could buy potions with the super chat he gets, and Aragami added that it would cost Sekai 100,000 apiece, but they'll restore even a missing limb. To Sekai's shock, Yukikaze donated 300,000, which would be enough for 3, and Aragami was even more generous, donating a massive 10 million yen. Sekai was overwhelmed by the support as he quickly bought the potions. They appeared instantly in his item box as he downed a few. Sekai knew that it was a juggling act now. He wondered how he was going to get through this without getting hurt. The beast swiped Sekai's arm, dashing it off in one blow. Sekai yelled out before the potions kicked in. He was healed in an instant. He continued to run, reading one comment who genuinely thought Sekai had died as his rating went down. He saw the amount of viewers and comments, but knew that now was not the time to get excited over that. He pleaded with his viewers for advice on what to do next, but was bombarded with useless nonsense in return. Yukikaze explained that he had just passed a cave, and Aragami added that it looked like a rest area. Sekai wondered how he missed it. He told the rest of his viewers that this is what it means to be a viewer, and of course, responding to comments is what Dan-tubing was all about. He tried to run to the rest area, but the beast had blocked him. To make matters worse, the animal inhaled before exhaling out an explosion of fire. Sekai was set alight but instantly healed thanks to the potion. He ran away before he went flying off the cliff. Sekai darted into the cave, and to his viewers' surprise, he made it to the rest area. He had survived. The wolf stood at the entrance, blocked by the force of the rest area. Sekai's chat was overwhelmed by commenters congratulating him. Sekai started laughing before turning to the wolf, telling it that it really thought it could lick him, then run away. His commenters were amused by the scene, throwing more compliments at Sekai. The wolf blew one more puff of fire, which of course did not reach the boy, who laughed, noticing how angry it was. He told the monster that he was annoyed too. He lay down and got some rest in, thinking about his first day as a Dan-tuber, how he ended up at the unprecedented starting line aiming for survival from the 500th level. So Sekai remained in the safe zone, directly facing the ginormous wolf which continued to glare at him. Sekai checked his phone, which revealed that he had slept for 8 hours. His viewers let him know that the wolf had stayed the whole time, not moving its eyes away from Sekai. Someone commented how they would not be able to sleep on the solid ground like Sekai did, and Sekai suddenly realized that everyone had watched him sleep. In fact, the NTD broadcasting station dedicated an entire slot to Sekai's stream. Sekai cringed at the thought. His whole experience exposed to the world, including his limbs being blown off whilst his viewers relax. He wondered where the ethics were in the broadcasting world. Apparently it was okay as long as the Dan-tuber's rating remained displayed. Mysterious technology that automatically imposes age restrictions if the streamer is badly injured. One person mentioned it was commonplace now, but it was amazing. Another comment mentioned how it was a combination of magic stones and the smartphone for dungeon streaming and rating display. Someone else said that a lot of things have been solved as a result, such as the energy issues, since the last time the user was in Japan. Sekai thought to himself that all this has come at the cost of heavy casualties. He turned to face the wolf, realizing how persistent the beast was too. Someone advised Sekai to appraise it with his inner skill, which was quite good advice. Sekai looked at the wolf to reveal its information. It was called Sukoru. Sekai thought that despite his struggles, he was still only a newbie who ended up on this level, and that in itself was quite amazing. His commenters mentioned how the average monster on the 50th floor is level 68, with Sukoru's level defeating that by almost 1,000. Another commenter mentioned how Sukoru was the first unique boss combination they had seen. Despite being pleased to see his viewers' amusement, Sekai was still worried about what to do next. He knew that he could manage to escape to the rest area, so there must be a way forward. He enthusiastically pitched his next idea, but was met with nothing but pessimism from his viewers. Most of them told him it was impossible, and if it were them, they would have given up. But Sekai knew that he could not give up, or else he would die. He found a helpful comment which suggested that he buy food and water at the shop, and he can't wait to be rescued. Sekai knew it was safe where he was, but he wondered if a rescue would really come in the first place. He wondered how many people would die before they got to his level. It was the 500th floor after all, and the dungeons already had 100,000 casualties per year. Someone mentioned that if Sekai wanted to go up, he would need to defeat the wolf. Even if he challenges them by relying on position, it would probably end with his brain being crushed. Sekai knew that the potion was ideal to strengthen himself, but how? A comment came in which prompted him to look for a treasure chest. There might be an enhanced armament or something in there. Sekai was not sure if the advice was reliable, it just all seemed too convenient. Sekai received a message which explained that if there is a treasure chest, it should contain an item. Sekai knew that there must be hope for a comeback with a treasure chest, although he thought it was an extremely slim chance. Not to mention, he was not even sure that he would be able to find a treasure chest. He doesn't like leaving things to chance, but there was not much else that he could do. He decided to set out and search for this chest, despite the wolf still glaring at him from outside of the rest zone. Sekai forgot about the wolf and realized that it may be harder for him to find the chest. He turned around and instead descended deeper into the cave. He started walking, noticing that even though he was still in the rest area, it was quite deep. Sekai thought that there may be a clue somewhere. He reached the very back of the cave, realizing that there was magma in the back of the cave too. He jumped back at the heat but knew that this was better than the monster house, and suddenly, to his excitement, he found the chest. Sekai bent down to take a look at the chest, realizing that it was quite extravagant. He could only hope that something good will come out of it. He received a comment which advised him to use his appraisal skills to check it out before opening it. But Sekai knew that appraisal does not work on inanimate objects. He remembered being taught that mimics are often disguised as chests, and you need to have trap sensing or clairvoyant skills to see through it. Sekai often heard other adventurers talk about the chest. Aragami gave Sekai the heads up that the whole floor was probably the boss room, also known as the wolf's territory. He continued to mention that even if it's a mimic type, other monsters won't be able to stay in the area. Sekai was relieved to hear this. With 3 different camera angles recording the anticipated moment, Sekai opened up the chest. Comments came in mentioning how they knew it, and how Sekai always ends up losing his arm. The comments attacked Aragami, who defended himself by mentioning that Sekai would have died if the condition for movement had not been contacted. But there was no use. Commenters accused Aragami for experimenting on poor Sekai. Sekai received a 100,000 yen donation to cover the cost of treatment. He thanked his viewers and mentioned how those who were laughing without giving any information should learn from this. Despite saving as much money as he could, Sekai had no idea how many more potions he would need to buy. Aragami advised that if he has received his millions, he should take a look in the store as new products will likely be added to the new lineup. Sekai checked out the store to see that there were more things such as a cauldron, seasonings, and a change of clothes, but he thought that it was quite strange. Did it want him to try and cook whilst he was inside the dungeon? The goods in the shop vary from person to person, but IRS said that desired items will appear. Sekai knew that he was not in the mood to cook, especially not in this situation. He knew that he would be using this place as a base until he defeat the wolves, which seemed to at least form a better quality of life for Sekai. He also gathered that he could make a fire from the magma. If it was a dungeon version, he may be able to withstand it anyway. So despite his heart pounding, the boy decided he should try cooking. His viewers reacted in shock, wondering what got to the boy's head. Aragami was supportive, however, but another viewer mentioned how he heard the spirit of the world breaking. Sekai knew that if there was no change, then his viewers would get tired. It's true that he was being supported by the super chat, so he needed to give a little back. Rather than hiding, saying he doesn't like it or he is scared, variety is better, right? He began his project, starting with a day's worth of water and food. He decided to buy a big pot and some seasonings. Sekai checked out the shop to see that a large pot was being sold for 210,000. He had no idea what type of pot would be more expensive than a potion that can even heal lost limbs. He tried to think of it as tourist attraction prices. One comment scolded him for his words, mentioning how he had millions so it made no sense for him to be stingy. Sekai apologized, insisting that he will buy it. The pan and food fell in front of his eyes. Sekai was amused to find the whole food inside the pan, realizing that it really assumes that explorers are prepared to cook. He thought he would be given a can of food ready to eat. If you didn't have fire and cooking utensils, you would be stuck. Sekai decided to make summer vegetable curry with the limited ingredients he was provided with. He made the most of what he had, wondering why the rice was the only thing floating in the water. He knew that you could at least eat rice with the worst of seasonings. Sekai realized that the seasonings were also from a small bottle set, and if he saved his money, he would be good for a while. So he decided to start cooking, without fear of failure. He first tested if the pit could withstand the heat of the magma. For 210,000, he expected it to be strong enough. He placed the pan into the lava, asking his viewers what they thought would happen. Most insisted that it would melt, but to their surprise, the pan stayed put. The endurance test was complete. The boy chopped up the vegetables within the wok and added in the seasoning. In no time, the meal was done. He showed his viewers the summer vegetable curry. He sadly didn't have a plate, so needed to eat from the pan, slowly taking his first bite. The food was delicious. It was like eating onigiri after climbing a mountain. He enjoyed his food until he looked down to see the wok shaking. He asked his viewers if it was just him seeing things or if something looked strange. The shaking got worse and Sekai jumped up, wondering if it was an earthquake. His viewers commented that they could not feel anything, however. The boy decided that he should move. He wondered if he was in a dangerous location, particularly because there was a treasure chest there. He cursed as a mountain of lava exploded. It looked beautiful, but he really needed to get moving. He thought that he would not normally be able to see the scenery on the 500th floor, and that he was a floor for messing around. He knew that he was doomed, watching the explosion burst into the ceiling. His commentators told him that he should stop sitting around like he was watching a fireworks show and run away. Sekai thanked his viewers for the meal before checking out the extent of the situation. Once his stomach and the magma has settled down, he vowed to have a strategy meeting. Treasure chests are too dangerous, so was there any other way Sekai could increase his strength? A commenter replied that there are no monsters that can be defeated on this level of the dungeon. In other words, Sekai could not do it. Another advised him to learn some skills, and Aragami agreed that skill acquisition might be more realistic. Sekai remembered how Aragami said he would be able to get them later on. Aragami replied that they can be obtained through certain actions, but it's not clear what exactly the action is. Some say it's probability, however. He continued to advise that Sekai had no choice but to do something randomly. Sekai mentioned that the last one was a mess, although he was grateful for the information itself. There's also the treasure chest incident, and he would love to hear what the other adventurers have to say about that. He asked where Yukikaze was, realizing that he hasn't seen any of their comments for a while. Yukikaze mentioned that based on past experience, if it's a resistant system, it's relatively easy to get. Sekai was happy to see that Yukikaze was still tuned in. Yukikaze continued to say that with heat resistance, you can stick your hand into the magma without feeling a thing. Sekai put Yukikaze's knowledge to the test, and it was true, Sekai could not feel anything, although his viewers remained apprehensive, mentioning how the lava was probably so hot he could feel it. Sekai looked at his arm, realizing that it carbonized in an instant, so it was better than being cut. He apologized for being unsightly. He then wondered if he built up some resistance, checking if there was any update to his stats. Sekai knew that although it hurt, he was able to hold back thanks to the skill. Yukikaze mentioned that resistance takes time, but it's hard to believe that he didn't have heat resistance yet. Sekai realized that Yukikaze's information was accurate, as resistance-type skills are easy to obtain. He decided to build up some heat resistance by performing in the Manga footbath endurance, to which his viewers decided that he was an idiot after all. Aragami tells Sekai that he did not think he would be able to stay sane, and if Sekai does survive, he would like him to join. So Sekai prepared himself to lower his feet into the lava, commenters mentioning how this is an important moment if he does survive. An hour passed and a notification came onto Sekai's screen. He had achieved the heat resistance skill. He threw his arms up in happiness over his newly acquired skill, knowing that if he touches magma now, he won't melt right away. His arms and legs were carbonized in an instant before. Sekai received more donations which congratulated him. Other commenters mentioned how the time of madness had finally come, and it seemed like he only wore paper defense and cannot attack. Sekai wondered what they were talking about. His heat resistance is not a consolation. An option popped up on screen and Sekai wondered if it was a flag, knowing that he could level up with this strategy. But his viewers only presented him with more nonsense. He was well aware that he screwed up a few times, but that didn't mean that people needed to stop watching him. The boy scooped up some magma with his wok and realized how hot it was. He knew that if he didn't have heat resistance, all the heat alone would make him collapse. He took the magma he collected and placed it onto the chest, laughing as he still had a grudge for the item since it took his arm off. He watched the magma burn but left no damage to the chest. His viewers ridiculed him for the idea, really thinking that the chest located in the magma-filled dungeon was not resistant to heat. But Sekai was done with asking for advice, and decided that he would act on his own power from now on. He thought how most of his viewers probably thought how he couldn't come up with any ideas himself. He turned to the chest, wondering if it didn't move if touched with the pan. He attempted another technique to open it by forcing the pan near its lock. Sekai admitted that he was an idiot adventurer, and that there was so much he didn't know that he had no choice but to ask his viewers. Sekai realized that no matter what he asked, he would be the one to make the final decision. He was responsible for his own actions and did not want to blame anyone else. So if his viewers looked at him from the sidelines, it might be shallow. The boy moved the chest into the lava completely to his viewers' shock. The chest was completely submerged, which resulted in Sekai leveling up. He smiled, realizing that he defeated the chest. Sekai turned to the lava and thanked the chest, swearing that he would never forget it. Aragami and Yukikaze found the situation amusing, and congratulated Sekai on staying strong. Sekai informed his viewers that his level actually shot up to level 50, which was the recommended level for conquering the middle and lower tiers. He asked why there was such a leap from the beginner to the middle level, but someone commented that if you're up against a level 1240 wolf you would be considered trash anyway. Sekai was brought back to reality. Yukikaze let Sekai know that at level 50, your eyesight should be so sharp that you can just barely see bullets. Sekai admitted that he was happy to grow, even if it was just a little. Yukikaze let Sekai know that there was an item at his feet. Sekai bent down to see a candy stick on the floor. He wondered how it got there. His viewers asked if he was going to eat it, and Sekai replied, why not? He popped it into his mouth, pleased to have been rewarded with a sweet treat. A girl called Sienna popped up to comment that he actually found a rare skill ball. Sekai had never heard of a skill ball before and asked Sienna to explain. She replied that skill balls are rare items that monsters drop. With just one lick you acquire a new skill. Sekai was happy to hear this, especially as he was worried that he was wrong for eating the sweet. But Sienna added it was usually a hazardous skill. Sekai dashed the sweet in frustration. It turns out that Sienna was 6th in the world ranking. She found Sekai's ignorance to be amusing. She watched his stream through her phone, happy with the character she had stumbled across. So Sekai could only await his fate, having just learned that he will be acquiring a hazardous skill through licking the lollipop. Luckily, Sienna seemed really knowledgeable on the subject, mentioning that it is usually just an L skill. It was obvious to Sekai that Sienna found the situation to be hilarious. Another commenter butted in, basically calling Sekai ignorant for not knowing about the princess. They quickly let him know that he was chatting with 6th in the world ranking Sienna Catral. In fact, she was the only known female S rank. Her name Kibohime comes from the way she hunts for heads with an axe. Sekai thanked his commenter for the report, knowing it meant that Sienna was at least verified as a powerful figure. Sekai was pleased to have a new ally. Yukikaze encouraged him to live strong as it was too early to give up. Sekai knew that there was a chance, if he thought about it. Was it possible for the reward from a treasure chest to be a bad one? Of course it was not. So Sekai acquired a new skill called self-sacrifice. It directs the increase in defense from future level-ups into attack power. Heavy equipment was prohibited. Sekai knew that it was a good skill to boost your attack power. Someone commented that it was the strongest weakening skill. But Sekai wondered how you can call it self-sacrifice. This life was already cast aside from the beginning. The commenter replied that he was still standing next to death and it was okay as he had potions. Sekai decided to go to sleep, and someone mentioned how he has basically surpassed his capacity. Another viewer argued that it was too early to sleep anyway. Sekai drifted off to his viewers arguing amongst themselves over whether it was too early to sleep or not. A few hours later, Sekai woke up to his third day. His commenters mentioned how Sekai at least had an ability to sleep well. Sekai thanked them for making him feel better. He washed his face and finally felt refreshed. He also noticed that he was acquiring more experienced people commenting, which was great to see. Even the comment section, which now has over 150 million connections, has been transformed into a torrent. Thanks to his improved visual ability from leveling up, he could read everything, with comments from top adventurers displayed for a longer time. The situation was pretty desperate though, but Sekai was never short of ideas. His commenters asked if he was still relying on comments, but Sekai defended that he would continue to do what he could. Sekai decided that today he was going to sneakily make a map of the field. He got into position and ran as fast as he could, which confused the heck out of his viewers. Sekai responded that he was currently in wolf territory and yesterday it was glaring at him since he entered. So even if he can't see it, he was going to stick to running to prevent a surprise attack. But people asked if his plan was a bit of an overkill. They mentioned how Sekai was basically working his brains out. Sekai mentioned how mapping was important in order to avoid dead ends when running. He went on to say that a strong adventurer told him that, so that was the reason why he made maps. More people teased that Sekai was living on the receiving end, but all Sekai could think of was the fact that he was running out of supplies. He mentioned that the fate of the future really depended on his viewers. He came up with an idea to take a picture from a high place, which would be way easier than writing it down in a notepad. He made his way up a ramp, knowing that this would lead to him getting abused again in the comments section. He knew that the only thing he could focus on was getting that picture to make up for it. Finally reaching the summit, Sekai was happy with how clear his view was of the cave. You could even see the magma and wolf in the photo, but to Sekai's horror, that of course meant that the wolf could see him too. He looked down at the monster which looked pleased to find its prey once again, and Sekai wondered if it was too late. Sekai knew that the moment you get into an accident, everything feels slow, and he wondered if now was one of those moments. He wondered if today was the day when he finally was going to die. The wolf inhaled, and to Sekai's expectation, it blew fire as close to Sekai as it could. But the wolf missed. Sekai told his viewers that was lucky, but Sienna did not believe the situation to be luck. Aragami explained that the wolf's power goes up with the level. In fact, Aragami replayed the scene to show Sekai able to quickly dodge the fire. Sekai was now pulling off advanced moves without even noticing. Sekai was stoked to come to this realization. Not only did he dodge the monster's fireball, but he also did not feel any pain from being burned. A commenter mentioned that it must be due to his heat and pain resistance. But other commenters told Sekai to snap out of his trance and run. The wolf did not look like it was about to give up anytime soon. Sekai got moving, mentioning that now he had found the wolf, he was not interested in exploring anymore. He decided to get back to the cave, but the moment he arrived, the wolf was sitting directly at the entrance. Sekai laughed, calling the wolf clever. So the wolf remained in his place, blocking the cave entrance. Sekai thought of what to do next, with his commenters inciting that the wolf must have known that Sekai was returning. It must have seen Sekai sleeping there and picked up that it was his base. His commenters asked what he was going to do, and Sekai had no clue. He cockily mentioned how it should be his commenters who worked that out, calling them out for insulting him. Sekai told them that in the end he was the one who was going to decide, so they shouldn't worry about his plan. Ultimately, he is his own responsibility, and whatever happens won't impact his viewers. He did give them the heads up that he was open to suggestions, however. Sienna called Sekai bad in a good way, and Yukikaze uploaded an image to the chat. The image turned out to be a map of everywhere Yukikaze had been walking. Although the map was from multiple clippings, Sekai could fill in the blanks. Sekai was really pleased with the new resource, thanking Yukikaze for sharing. Aragami mentioned how it was also compatible with the Dungeon Phone's map recording, which made it even better. So Sekai now had a fully functional map which also displayed his current location. Aragami let him know that normally it would register as you move, so this was actually huge. Sekai was really happy with the support from the 3 experienced adventurers, but his commenters had mixed opinions. One mentioned how they really praised second place in the world. Another commented how they're B ranked, not to mention that no one knew who Yukikaze was. Sekai then too wondered who Yukikaze was. A mysterious masked figure appeared, ready to battle 2 beasts who dwarfed them. With a few slashes, the stranger decapitated the animals before checking their phone. Their current location was the 60th floor. The stranger thought about Sekai, the promising newbie who was sent flying, all alone to the 500th floor because of them. They of course were joking when they told Sekai to enter the magic circle, but their joke had very serious consequences. At least the stranger was the only person in Japan who could organically reach that level, and they received permission to fake a streaming account too. The figure was revealed to be Kazuma Yukine-sama, and it was no joke that an S rank was barely moving. Kazuma was warned that entering a dungeon was at their own risk. If it's something that's taught in a course, it's not acceptable to say that you didn't know about it. And Kazana thought that in Sekai's case, if they hadn't said anything, he would have avoided the magic circle. Kazama knew that Sekai was strong, and that strength inspired them. That's why they needed to sneak off, this time for definite. They hoped that they could save Sekai, knowing that it was their turn to give back. So Kazama departed on the journey, confident in their abilities to save Sekai. They were efficient and fast as they descended into the dungeons. The only doubt they had was knowing how long Sekai would last by himself. Kazama continued to watch Sekai whilst they traveled, from his interaction with the wolf to him cooking himself a meal. So Sekai cried out in frustration, knowing that with the wolf there, he had no way back to the safe place. His commenters asked what happened, to which he explained that the wolf did not seem to be moving from the front of the cave. His commenters suggested for him to walk around in the meantime to try and complete the map. Another commented on a burning treasure chest that was in sight. A few moments ago there was a treasure chest with a deja vu arrangement. Sekai thought that it was another setup. He figured that if he could push it down, he could get it. Sienna once again found Sekai's thought process to be nothing but amusing. Sekai continued to say that if he had been prepared to sacrifice his limbs to open out, that he would not have any regrets. He decided to just pull himself together and go. Aragami mentioned how there are other treasure chests. The location of the chest and their current locations are approximately at the west and south ends. By the looks of it, there are more to the east and north. Sekai asked if he wanted him to look for it whilst he was filling in the blanks, swearing that next time he would open it. Someone mentioned how it was strange considering how many chests there were. Sekai brought up that it had been a while since he had done anything that resembles an explorer, so suggested walking about and completing the map. Originally, he was looking for a treasure chest, but even after coming to the 500th floor, it was intense running around and making curry. After all, a steady search was the best way. Sekai continued to wander until he found a chest. He checked his map to find that it was on the eastern edge. Just as Aragami predicted, he knew that he wanted to get stuck in. Sekai nervously opened it up and there was a slash. He wondered if it was another arm. And then he realized that this chest was exactly the same as before. Yukikaze advised that Sekai should ignore it, which would be the basic approach. Sekai noted that he thought that a wok can withstand the force and the magma would prevent it. He prepared himself to attempt the chest again, but a commenter told him to wait, mentioning that something looked to be wrong with the chest. And they were right. There was a strange substance flowing out of it. Sekai wondered if it was acid. It was not long until the substance was overflowing. Yukikaze warned that Sekai should leave, and Aragami explained that it was probably a higher-level version of the acid trap. Cien added that it would be a problem if they all fired at once, and even she would have ignored it. Other commenters were negative as usual, telling Sekai that he should just give up at this point. Sekai was well aware that he was in a life-or-death scenario again, but he was not prepared to just give up. More discouraging comments came flooding in, and Sekai suddenly stepped forward. His viewers asked him what he was doing and if he was stupid. The chest fired out a load of acid, and Sekai defended himself with the walk. He informed his viewers that he was not prepared to just die, but at the same time a whole treasure chest was there waiting for him. So why would he ignore it? Not to mention, the whole reason why he was in the dungeon was to stream and explore. So he defended himself against the chest, despite the influx of negative comments. What was even crazier was the fact that Sekai managed to store and carry the acid as he fought. With his viewers asking how Sekai's movements were possible, Sekai disposed of the acid into the lava. His clever plan was to run the chest dry. Comments asked if dungeon chests ever die, or if Sekai's plan would really work. Sekai continued to dispose of the acid for a while until eventually his viewers got distracted and asked if they can get some food or something instead. Hours pass and his viewers come up with their own entertainment in the comments section, making bets on what Sekai's next move will be, or if he gets bored and gives up. But Sekai graded on and eventually he managed to open the chest. His viewers were beyond shocked. Inside the chest was a purple potion. It looked pretty toxic to Sekai. His viewers prompted him to drink it, but Sekai was already onto his next plan. He decided to move north. But then Sekai realized that the treasure chest in the north was close to where he very first teleported, with no traps at all. The rest of the treasure chests were easily found. As Sekai moved, the map was filling up nicely. The only remaining issue was the wolf, who persisted to stay in front of the rest area. Sekai wondered what he should do about the situation. The only thing he needed to do was get inside that cave. It was clear that the wolf had no intention of leaving. It rested in front of the rest area, clearly enjoying itself as Sekai began to panic. He hid behind a stone, assessing the situation and what his next steps should be. He opened his item box to get out his wok and the potion. He brought the potion to his lips and began to drink. As soon as Sekai finished the potion, he jumped out in front of the wolf, who immediately saw him. As expected, the wolf began to breathe out a ball of fire. Sekai thought to himself that he would do the same. The fire engulfed Sekai, but thanks to the potion, he remained unharmed. Although Sekai noticed that his hands did get a little seared, he knew that it did not matter. He managed to withstand the fireball head of. This should make the wolf even more wary of fireballs. Sekai decided that he needed to get as close as possible and get the bottle out. Whilst the wolf was charging right before the fireball before he fires, Sekai would throw the new potion. So he carried out his plan, turning away to run as fast as he could. The wolf whipped around, not letting Sekai out of his sight. Sekai sighed, realizing that as he thought, the wolf reacted like a dog. He began to cook his next meal, which was gyoza, or as he called it, his victory meal to celebrate a successful day. He picked up on the empty potion jar, which was filled with pepper, having to wait and see if it really worked. He was glad that it worked out after all. Someone commented that if they were in that situation, they would have lost their appetite. Sekai replied that it would be impossible to keep going unless you eat. Although a potion will heal both wounds and strength, if you don't have food, clothing, and shelter, you're not really going to survive. Sekai did want a bath though, with that in mind. He smelt himself, conscious of the fact that he was used to bathing twice a day. He looked down at the magma, getting intrusive thoughts to enter the fiery liquid. Someone popped up to suggest that Sekai heats up some hot water in the wok, which he thought was a brilliant idea. Sekai was sweating just by being there. Although the wolf was a fireball freak, it was easy enough to see through, but it did not look good on stream at all. Sekai told his viewers that he was planning on defeating the wolf and go up, but he was only met with ridicule. But Sekai was serious, despite his viewers' doubt. While exploring the floor, he did acquire 2 mystery potions. He knew that he should be able to do at least something with them. But one viewer brought up how Sekai had no way of knowing if they were usable in the first place. Sekai brought it to the test, trying a little bit of the first one. His commenters warned that it could be poisonous. Sekai spat the disgusting liquid out, wishing that he wasn't there. He imagined dying all because of a stupid potion. Sekai informed his viewers that the potion tasted kind of bad, but it's kind of bad taste that seemed good for your body at least. Although it was more like spit everything bad out. Someone else had a theory that the potion was not poisonous after all. Another viewer cleverly realized that Sekai was hurt by something that seemed harmless, so with the same logic, the liquid that looks like poison may be safe. Sekai decided that if it was poison, he would just drink another potion. But the rules of the dungeon let him know that potions won't cure status effects. Sekai knew that ultimately all well that ends well, and based on that outcome, then the other one is poison. Aragami brought up that if it really was poisonous, it could be used to attack the wolf. Sekai decided that he would try it tomorrow. The next day, commenters asked what Sekai meant by that and if he was planning on throwing the poison in the wolf's mouth. Sekai denied the plan, telling his viewers that he needs to be sure of one thing, and that was by planning time. The plan was to get the wolf to eat his arm, and therefore it would eat the potion too. Sekai figured that the wolf usually attacks him right away, so he figured that the animal would eat it. His viewers responded negatively to the plan, asking Sekai if he was crazy. Although their reactions were not what Sekai expected, he decided to stick to the plan. He began by tormenting the wolf, asking if he wanted to take a bite of him. When the wolf came closer, Sekai volunteered his arm with the poison closed in his fist. The wolf took one look at Sekai's arm and crunched down, swiping it off in one go. Sekai was pleased with the result, despite losing his arm for the third time. The monster ate the arm, and the poison with it. All Sekai could do was pray that his plan would work. Suddenly, the wolf's mouth started to foam as he howled out in pain. Sekai couldn't believe that the solution was really poison. He thought that the wolf would at least notice it if this was the case, but the wolf collapsed into a furry heap. Sekai's plan worked better than expected. In fact, it was so easy that it was a bit of a letdown. Sienna popped up to let Sekai know that there was a saying, "Birds of a feather flock together." But Sekai only got made fun of again by his commenters. More importantly, he thought about where he should go from here. If the wolf hasn't disappeared, then it is probably still alive. If Sekai was to leave, would the poison kill the wolf? He wondered how much HP was left with a skill, knowing that it was hard to judge without seeing his face. In fact, Sekai was looking for a while with hopes of finding out, and out of nowhere the wolf raised to his paws again, still able to move and everything. The wolf howled out, probably more angry than ever. Sekai did not need to think twice before darting, his commenters asking where he could run to, but Aragami told him to keep running. Sekai was going in the right direction. The wolf was slower than normal, clearly weakened by the poison. Aragami informed Sekai that the poison was still spreading through its body, although it would take some time. He told Sekai that if he was planning on defeating the wolf, now was basically his only chance. Sienna agreed, mentioning how for better or for worse it was instinct. He seemed to have chosen the right answer. Sekai knew that he could trust the insight from the higher-ups, despite his body moving quicker than his mind this time. He knew that the rest area was the best place to run, but at the same time he did not want to stay cooped up and maintain the status quo. People commented, tormenting Sekai about his situation. They mentioned how it appeared like the wolf wanted another bite and how cool it looked chasing him. All Sekai could think about was how he always ended up in events like this. He took his phone and found the map, telling himself that he would do it anyway. His commenters asked what he was planning to do, but Sekai told them to just wait and watch. Sekai turned to face the wolf, which was snarling at him. He prompted it to come closer. The wolf whispered that he would kill Sekai with one look. The wolf pounced but failed to catch Sekai. It turns out that Sekai had trapped the wolf again and tricked it into jumping off the cliff's edge. The animal was about to land headfirst in the lava, but with a quick whip of its tail it tried to take Sekai with him. Sekai fell as comments came flooding in. Sienna commented how he immediately fell, and Aragami mentioned how he would laugh if Sekai is still alive after that.